So hold on a second. If my clicker works, if it's not, that's absolutely fine. So to kick things off then, I'd like to start by walking you through the opportunity you have when you unlock the power of your data estate and how we see the future of a digitized local authority and the impact this will have on our future communities. I'm then going to hand over to the awesome Lauren Weeks, who's going to bring this story to life with a couple of real world local authority examples that should hopefully help you think about how you may be able to tackle what is quite often seen as a huge mountain to climb. And then Lauren's going to hand over to Jonathan, who's then going to provide you with a demonstration of how the Microsoft's customer data platform works in reality. And then Jonathan's going to hand back to me to wrap this session up and provide you with a couple of closing remarks on how you can start on that journey. If you have any questions throughout this webinar, please feel free to post in the chat section any questions you may have during the session, and we'd be happy to answer the questions as we go. And please, given that this is not a live event, this is just a normal Teams meeting, please remain on mute as we are going throughout the presentation, just to ensure there's no echo during the call. With that, let's get started. And I wanted to start with really a piece from Deloitte regarding the need to be increasingly innovative in our public sector to face the growing complexities of society now and in the future. As we deal with the world around us, emerging from the current global pandemic, the rise of the overall cost of living crisis, and quite frankly, the rising burden on our overall health service, to name but a few, one thing really stands out, and that is the need to do things differently, to become more agile, and quite frankly, do more with less. And we've got a collective responsibility to really help reimagine what the new world of public sector could look like, where services are all interconnected and are running at even better levels of quality and efficiency to provide the very best possible experience to citizens across the UK. So why is bringing the right services to customers a challenge then? As a resident, you pay a significant sum of your hard-earned money for local services, and you have a level of expectation on the quality of service, which has only increased since the customer experience in other industries, such as retail, has had significant improvements over the years. And that's what you come to expect from every industry, be that you have an issue with your bins or potholes, through to really understanding your specific circumstances in the case of being in debt and struggling, or even down to the level of self-service that really empowers you to be independent. As a council support worker, you may be frustrated with the systems and processes you're having to navigate on a daily basis, as data's locked away in silos across different departments. All you want to do is focus on doing the very best you can, but instead you're inundated with manual, paper-based processes that really don't allow you to thrive in your workplace. And our workers on the front line are unable to get access to the right data, technology, and devices that really empowers them to create consistent experiences and focus on the task at hand, and even go as far as proactively engaging in the moments that really matter to citizens and that could make the biggest impact. But having said all that, right, the future is bright for local government transformation in a new digitized world, with many councils unlocking the power of their estates with open data infrastructure strategies, building self-service capabilities to help automated services and delivery for their customers, empowering their workers with low-code applications, tools to speed up innovation and activation of smaller but very important tasks, all with the goals of becoming a more connected and insights-led local authority that can deliver connected support services. And at Microsoft, we've been proactive in helping to deliver some of these transformational projects. We've helped councils all across the UK along their digital transformation journeys, from councils who are at the very beginning of the journey to councils that are at the leading edge of innovation, helping them to discover how they can leverage technology to better support fostering innovation, empower their employees to work smarter, using data to really drive change and action, to optimize their processes and stretch their budgets further, and remain agile and responsive to the constant change in the landscape. And Cornwall is a great example of this. Cornwall Council, a 550,000 resident strong, £1 billion budget council, had great aspirations of becoming one of the leading councils in the UK for citizen experience. They recognised that in order to deliver exceptional citizen experiences, they really needed to understand not only their citizens, but also the people who support them, their council workers. But there was a problem. Whilst they had this great aspiration of wanting a connected citizen and employee experience, they didn't have the data foundation to allow them to really gain a single view of their employees and citizens. Cornwall partnered with Microsoft on a transformation journey that enabled them to quickly establish a great foundation on Microsoft Azure and then build their single view of their employees and customers using Dynamics 365 customer insights. That's now helped them drive improved service delivery and have driven process times down in some areas by as much as 50% since their initial deployment, and has saved over 200,000 in their initial proof of concept over a period of 6 months, providing a return on investment of 400%. Now, rather going down a lengthy master data management route, Cornwall chose Microsoft as they wanted to see quicker time to value and get cost out quicker. Now, Lauren will show you in a few moments just some of the key use cases that Cornwall are leveraging as part of their POC. And we learned a massive amount from Cornwall's case study in that by improving the overall employee experience, helping to foster collaboration and innovation, both from front office workers and frontline staff, you will provide a much better overall citizen experience. Breaking down those data silos and having an intelligence engine that enables you to be data insight driven will help empower your employees to take proactive steps to better serve your citizens and ultimately find new ways to innovate, to improve processes and drive cost out to stretch your budgets further. And at Microsoft, we're enabling local authorities across the UK to accelerate their time to insight and action with our customer experience platform. From unifying data about your citizens for a single customer view, to leveraging AI to better segment and target your audience for improved understanding and insight, and then orchestrating the next best action to support the customer and citizen journey. This could be handling an issue all the way through to improving the way you interact with the communities around you and enabling a seamless experience, no matter whether it's digital or physical. Now, with that, I'm going to hand over to Lauren, who's going to bring this to life with some use cases we've seen from other councils. Over to you, Lauren.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. Lauren Weeks. I'm a technical specialist here at Microsoft. It's great to see some names that I recognise. So hello to everyone that knows me already, and great hello to those who don't. Within Microsoft, I'm a technical specialist, which means I help councils understand the technology and how it fits within their current problems and problems they're trying to solve. So what I'm about to present is a few of those kind of different use cases that I've seen come up time and time again that might and hopefully will resonate with the rest of you here. But to quickly touch on an overview of what the product Customer Insights does is what we've got is, and what we've seen is there's lots of different data in lots of different pools in lots of different systems. And all of these are completely fragmented all over the place at the moment. And it makes it really, really difficult to understand what data we've got on a particular citizen customer. So what Customer Insights does is it tries to pull all together that and unify it to understand and be able to use it in a useful way. So, and then what Customer Insights primarily does is it's always based on a customer record. So in Cornwall's case, in the proof of concept, which I'll go into a little bit more detail in the next slide, they did it on their internal staff, but it could also be done on your customers, your citizens. So all of the data attached to a person is attached to their customer profile, and that's what we're building out. And then what's really important is what we do off the back of it. It's great having this profile, but how do we actually make the most of it? What do we do with this information? So what Customer Insights tries to do is take you through these different steps, and Jonathan will go into this in a lot more detail in a second, but all of these different inputs that you have, this doesn't have to be just in a Dynamics or an Azure database. This could be SAP, it could be spreadsheets, it literally could be anything that you have information on. That's what we're going to unify and pull together through a map, match, and merge process. So this is around transforming the data, making it all legible in one particular form, and then we're applying that to a customer profile. Everything's attached to the customer profile. And on top of that, the customer insights application can start to enrich that. We've got this customer profile. What now can we do more with it? And there's a number of different ways that customer insights can help you enrich the customer profile. This could be through adding different measures that are useful to the council, or through bringing in demographics data, experience data, or even location data. So we're pulling in the customer profile, which is very, very valuable as it is, but also we're enriching it from multiple different sources to really understand what that customer, what that citizen is doing, and how can we help them more. And then the action off the back of it can go anywhere. So it's not necessarily just useful as a unified profile itself. It's, can we pull that into our customer service team, and can they use this information to make more educated decisions based on that customer and the history we've got on this person. But it can also go to external places. So it doesn't just have to remain in the Microsoft stack. It can go out to MailChimp. It can go out to any kind of liquid logic, any of the different services that you need. So it's hopefully a really, really nice, succinct product that allows you to unify and push it out to all the relevant areas, to the relevant people who need to see this profile. So some examples we have, as Chris mentioned earlier, with Cornwall, they set up a proof of concept to understand how the customer insights piece could work if they could do it in-house. And within the 90-day trial, they managed to set up this use case, which is, we've got, if we're talking about personas, we've got Jane, she works for the council, and she's responsible for managing software licenses. For example, we've got Victoria, she's recently left the council, but she was in the finance team and has access to lots of sensitive data. So within this proof of concept, what we've done is we've pulled in employee data and software profiles. So this could be all over different kinds of software profiles. And what we're going to do is segment it. So the internal staff who are active within the company and software licenses, we've already got that on their profile. But can we pull out the people who are no longer working here and get those licenses back? I mean, Microsoft might not like me saying that because they might be Microsoft licenses, but it's an example of what can happen and what we can do. And this will save the council costs and ultimately give you more control over your software licenses, who's using what, and start to give you a better picture of what's happening within the business. So that's an internal use case, and Cornwall case study is available if anyone wants to look at it. They're also very happy to talk through how they did the whole process themselves. So if anyone's interested in that, we can put you in touch. And off the back of that, they've now purchased the full license for customer insights, and they're starting to do a single view of debt. So what they're looking at is, if we're looking at personas wise, we've got Jenny, she works for the council, and she's responsible for understanding the citizens' debt and how we can best support them managing their way through the debt. And with Roger, he's a local resident, he has multiple debts and has no idea how to pay for these debts, how to manage these debts. So what Customer Insights is going to do is allow Jenny to have this single customer view and be able to support Roger in terms of outgoing comms, outreach, to understand specifically what his case is and how she can support. What Customer Insights can also do is, if we've got that profile Roger, we can take certain characteristics from Roger and apply it to see if there's a digital twin, different digital profiles of different people who could be in the same scenario as Roger, and use that as a segment or a persona to start basing these communications from. So if there's any marketing teams or outreach teams on the call, then this is a really good example of how we could start to manage that more personalized communications, and therefore it can be pushed out to wider teams as well. So there's lots of different, single view of debt seems to come up quite a lot, so it'd be interesting to hear later on if this is an interesting one to anyone else. Validate entitlements is one that seems to come up quite a lot with different councils, seems to be one that is quite on top of everyone's list. And we've had many people talk through this one as a use case. So if we're talking about through the personas, what we've got is Rob, he's a council analyst. He's responsible for reviewing when a single person has multiple parking permits. So this is particularly about parking permits, this one. And we've got Ben, who's a resident. He has a parking permit for both his new place and his old place, and he's renting out the old one to visitors. So just a simple example of how we can start to understand Ben as a resident what he's got in terms of parking permits and what we can do about it. Do we want to do anything about it? Maybe not. But in terms of customer insights, what we're going to do is we're going to map, match, and merge different data sets to understand this. So parking permits that they've got, eligibility, enrollment, anything you can think of, we can pull into this. We're going to map, match, and merge it, which Jonathan's going to take us through in a minute, and then segment who has potentially more than one residence permit. And then we can start to give that information to the relevant team to push out and validate whether they still need that extra parking permit. So again, hopefully a nice simple example, but it's the idea of gathering information to one picture and then pushing it out. This one's a little bit close to my heart. It's more of a social care example, and something that we've seen with a lot of our customers, our clients, is around the crossover between adult and child social care. So, and that there isn't much. They're quite separate at the moment. So in this use case here, we've got Mary. She's suffering from anorexia. She spent 3 months in hospital and is doing really, really well, and she's 2 months away from her 18th birthday. And we've got Katie, she's a social worker, and her job, her role is to ensure that there's no loss of support when they turn 18. It might not be this case in every council, granted, but just as an example, the cutoff for adult is 18 and it's passed to a new team that potentially needs to gather lots of information all over the place, which can take time, which Mary could regress. So in this case, the data we're matching is medical, social care, and school data. And it could be, again, a multitude of other types of data. And we're going to import it, understand what group of people do we have that are turning 18 in the next 6 months, and how can we support these people, these young adults transforming, and do they need the crossover care? So again, it's around that preemptive care sort of understanding your citizens, your residents, your customers, and making sure you're there to support them. And the idea here being that it will save on future costs down the line, purely because you understand where they are in the system at the moment and should they continue their care. So I hope that gave a little bit of a flavour as to the different types of use cases we've seen happen with customer insights that are actively being used. I've got hundreds of these use cases, so I'm very happy for anyone to reach out to me after if it is of interest, if you want to run anything past me, and have a chat about this. So I hope that gives a bit of a flavour. And I'll pass on to Jonathan to take you through it in a bit more detail.
Brilliant, thanks, Lauren. Right, what I'm going to do now is just going to share my screen and play a video. Hang on. There we go. Welcome to this short technical demo showcasing the simple steps required in order to get a customer insights environment up and running. Customer Insights is a simple and easy to use tool that requires practically no code. It's adept at combining data from multiple sources using AI. You have the ability to simply enrich your data using Microsoft proprietary data sources. You can measure, segment, and predict using AI to get a better understanding of the people that interact with your organization. And all these features will help in the gathering of insights that drive action. For the purpose of this demo, we're going to take a look at imaginary social care data. We'll have data on individual profiles from the payment system, individual profiles from the social care system, transaction data, and data on customer feedback. The purpose of Customer Insights in this example use case is to unify customer profiles and get an understanding of the people who use our services. This will help target particular services to individuals with certain characteristics, financial planning, and service quality evaluation. As soon as you create a Customer Insights environment, you'll be presented with this homepage. The first thing you need to do is to add some data. Now, to do this, you just simply click Data, then Data Sources, and then Add Data Source. In terms of data sources, there's a couple of options that are available to us. We can either connect to an Azure data lake storage, which is designed to store masses of raw data. You can connect to Azure Synapse Analytics. Now, Azure Synapse Analytics as a tool brings a number of technologies together, from the likes of ETL tools to data warehousing, and then analytics under one roof. And we can connect to databases in this location. Microsoft Dataverse. Now, this is primarily used for the Power Platform. It also powers Dynamics 365, and this is where we store data for business applications. Again, this data can be accessed. Probably the one most people will be familiar with, I suspect, will be Power Query. Now, this tool is used readily by Microsoft Excel and Power BI, and it's quite good for that low-code ETL processes. It can connect to a wide range of data sources and perform simple transformation steps using the UI that's available in Power Query to turn the data into something that you want when you want to import it into a solution. So this is what I'll use for this example. So if I go back, you'll notice that I've created a number of entities here. So if I click on this social care entity and then click next when it comes up with Power Query, I'll be presented with 4 tables that I've imported. So just waiting for it to load. So the thing that's important with Power Query is you can perform a number of changes to turn the data in exactly how you want it to be. So once I've imported this data, there's a couple of things that I'm not happy with. So for instance, this first column is the name of the file, and it doesn't actually add value to some of the stuff later down the line that I'm going to do in customer insights. So I'm going to simply remove this. In addition, I've also noticed that the date of birth column is in the wrong format. So I can see here that it's in text format. So all I will need to do is change that to date format. And that way I can go through each of these tables, do something similar. It just makes me more comfortable with how the data will flow into the customer insights environment. Now, the cool thing with Power Query is once I've made these changes are recorded. So if I want to refresh this data set here, all the tweaks and transformations that I've actually put in will be replayed back, and the data will be as I want it to be every time I refresh it. Once data is successfully imported, it's now time to unify the customer profiles to get a singular view of people who interact with the organization. Now, to do this, if I go back to the home page, I can access the unification page by clicking on Unify Data. I'm now presented with the Map, Match, Merge option. Now, first thing I need to do is define and select the entities that I want to perform the unification on. So if I select, I know from understanding of the data that I want social care core and contact to come in as these are 2 customer profiles. I don't want to put any payments or feedback into this unification process because these are activities, so they don't relate to a customer profile. So now that I've got this page here, so I've got both data sets, you'll notice that intelligent mapping automatically assigns a data type to each of the columns in each table. And this is all done through AI. This is really clever and useful and saves a lot of time when importing data. Now, one thing we do need to define is the primary key. Now, the primary key is a way of linking tables together and creating relationships. So it's important that we define this for the tables in question. So now that I've selected the primary keys and we've got our columns set to a data type, I can go to the match phase. So if I save that now, the map's been saved. I can move on to match. So I need to define now how the entities are going to match. So I'm just going to do that now. So I'm going to select the order of the way the entities will join. So I want the social care table to be the primary, because I know that's got the most records in it, and then the contact table to be the secondary table. I can choose whether to include all, which will select, even if the records don't match, it will still pull them through, but I'm not too fussed about it on this occasion. So if I click done, what it's saying to me now is it needs rules to link the tables. So if I click on here, I can choose how I want to link the tables. So I'm simply going to pick contact ID on both tables in the contact table and the social care core. I can just name it accordingly. And then I can choose whether I want it to precisely join or has less precision, which means that similar seeming records can be linked together. However, on this occasion, because I know both the fields link exactly, because they're the same, I will just keep the precision onto exact. So now that we've selected how the entities will relate, I can just start setting deduplication instructions. So if I go into social care core, I want to keep the most recent record. I can base this on the created on field, which is when the record was created. If I click done, I then can add some rules around deduplication. Again, we've got the precision setting there. So what I'm going to do is do some duplication checks on the email field, and I'm just going to set the precision to high for this purpose. I can click done, and then I can save the matching phase. So next, it's all about merging the records together. So one thing that I need to do on this section is choose what fields that I want to display on the unified customer profile. So I can go through here and exclude records I don't want to see. So I'm just going to get rid of these name fields that are repeated. And then to run it, all I need to do is click Run, Merge, and Downstream Processes. And it's now queued. Now, if I go to click on Admin, go to System, I can then see the process is now running. Once the data has been unified, you'll now be able to view customer profiles. Now, these are people in this instance that interact with the organization. And I can click in onto any individual and see lots of information about them. Now, this is from the combined two tables that we unified earlier. The next thing I will want to do to supplement this information is add activity data. To do this, all I need to do is click on Add Activities here, and then Add Activities again. So for this purpose, I'm going to add an activity to do with customer feedback or feedback for people who are involved in social care. So to do that, I want to select the relevant table, which in this case is called contact feedback, and select a primary key, which is the feedback ID. Next, I want to map this table to the existing customer tables that we've already unified. And to do this, I need to select the field that I'm going to use to link the tables. So in this case, I'm going to use user ID, which actually maps correctly to the contact ID in the social care table. So I'm just going to call this feedback mapping, and then click apply. And then I click next, and then I'm going to put some notes on how I want the activity to display. So what I'll need to do is for the event activity, I'm going to make that be the feedback text, so what the person actually wrote. I'm going to put the timestamp as the review date, so when they filled it in. Additional detail that I want to display is the activity type. Now this displays where the information has been recorded, whether it's been on a website, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to put an icon in terms of how I want it to look on the activity menu on the customer profile. And I'm going to leave web address blank. And if I click yes here, it will show me an example of what the timeline will look like. So I'm just going to go on and click next. Now this section here is to do with semantic mappings. Now semantic mappings let you map your data in predefined schemas, and these schemas help customer insights understand the data better, and is really useful for enabling new insights and features in customer insights. So it's definitely worth looking at. However, for this purpose, I'm just going to skip it for now. And I'm just going to click Save Activity. Once activities have been created, you'll start to see these flow through onto each individual's customer profile. And what we can see here, we've got activities ranging from the feedback that we talked about earlier, and I've also added one to do with payments. So you can see every interaction that an individual has had with the organisation. So this is really powerful. Once we've done that, there's a couple of options in terms of what we want to do next. So firstly, you can enrich the data. Microsoft provides a number of proprietary data sources that you can supplement your data with. So that's whether it from demographics information, people's interests on brands and other interests, and this is based on demographics. And there's also you can enhance addresses as well to ensure they're in a great format. So in addition to that, there's also things we can do around putting predictions on our data. So this is machine learning. Microsoft provides a number of templates where you can do this. So whether it be customer churn, product recommendations, that kind of thing. So this is really powerful in terms of supplementing your data with intelligence. Probably the most useful aspect, or one of the most useful aspects, is the ability to create measures based on your organization's performance. So you can create two kinds of measures. There's a business level measure and a customer level measure. Now, customer level measures will appear on your customer profile. So this is really useful if you want to start measuring like lifetime spend, that kind of thing. I can see that being used to understand whether people have hit social care caps, that kind of thing. You can also create business level measures. So you can see like the average spend, you can see average feedback scores, those kind of things, and those will appear in the homepage. So what we'll do now is we'll create a simple measure just to show how easy it is. So all you have to do is go to the measures tab here and click new measure. Now you're presented by this screen. So the first thing you want to consider is whether you want it to be a customer level measure or business level. So I'm just going to leave it as a customer level measure for now. So what I will do is I'm just going to sum up the amount of payments that someone's put through. So I'm just going to add an attribute. Just going to look at the payment received entity and just pick total price and add that there. Then all I need to do now is click save and close and call it something. So I'll just call it total spend. Click save. And then I can choose to activate it and then refresh it straight away. And then once that's done, it will start appearing in customer profiles. So as you can see here, I've now created some measures. These are the measures that will appear on the customer profile. I've also created some measures that are at a business level, and this will provide a more holistic view of the organization. So it's really useful to create these measures. The next thing we might want to consider doing is creating some segments. Now, segments down here are a handy way to cut the data to target specific individuals. So it's really useful to do. Now, if we think from a social care point of view, we may want to look at individuals between the ages of 16 and 18. Now, these are people that will be currently using child services, but they will be starting to transition to more adult services. So they certainly may need to meet new teams, might require advice or education about the changes, and their benefits could change. So it might be something that we may want to segment and identify who those individuals are. So to do that, we go to segments pane, click new segment, and then we want to pull in the age attribute into this rule here. So we can get that from the customer table, which is the unified customer profile. I pull that in and say, we want to check whether the age is greater than or equal to 16. And if I click on age again, I can add an additional clause, which is an and statement, and then check, see whether the age is less than 18. And it's as simple as that, to be honest. So we just save it, and then we just give it a title. We call it ages 16 to 18, and then just call it adult transition. So just click save. I can now run this segment. Brilliant. As you can see, I've created a number of segments as a way to get an understanding of the groups that interact with our organization. The option I have next is to take that segmented data and export it to Drive Action. The best way to do this is to navigate to the Data tab and click on Exports. I then need to create an export. I am then presented with a number of connections that I can choose to export the data to. So for example, I could choose to use MailChimp. This is useful if I want to send out emails, but there are many options. So my suggestion would be to explore what is the best method of exporting for your organization and start using the data to drive action. In summary, data has been imported, transformed, and combined to produce a unified customer profile. We've created activities to gauge how each individual interacts with the organization. And we've created measures to gain insight about the people that use our services. And finally, we have segmented the customers into groups so we can start to drive action. I hope this demo has illustrated how simple and quick it is to turn siloed customer data into insights and then into action. Now the opportunity is for you. Have a go, spin up a trial environment, start driving action. Hand back over to Chris.
Thanks, Jonathan. Lauren, do you want to represent? Or yeah, perfect. Give it 2 seconds. Gotta take control. Let's go through it. Perfect. Thank you so much. So yeah, thanks so much, Jonathan. It's great to see, Lauren, some of the great use cases that we've been collectively uncovering as part of the journey that we've been on with our customers to really help as many local authorities as we can deliver improved citizen experience. It's also great to see some of the demo really shining and coming to life to see how it can be achieved so quickly. So thanks a lot for that, Jonathan. So to wrap up then, if you'd like to learn more about Microsoft Dynamics 365 Customer Insights, which is the demo that you saw today, you can check out our website in the link that we'll be posting in the window shortly in the Q&A window. If you're inspired by this webinar and you'd like to go ahead and get started, and as Jonathan mentioned earlier, please visit the on-screen link to get started with a 30-day free trial of Dynamics 365 Customer Insights. And then if you're currently exploring this type of digital transformation projects for your council and you'd like some additional support, then please do reach out to the email address on screen, where our partners HSO would be delighted to support you on that journey, on those next steps. So really, we want to take the next 5 to 10 minutes to answer any further final questions that you have remaining in this webinar. And on behalf of both Microsoft and our extended partners HSO, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come join us on this webinar. Thank you very much.
Cool. John, there's a couple of questions on there for you from Tony and Brian. Have you seen those come in on the chat?
Yeah, I'm just having a look. I think it's all on Dataverse if it's Dynamics. So I would imagine that it's all on the same platform anyway. But let me take that away and do a bit of digging.
It is possible to pull it into customer service dynamics as well. Yeah. That's no problem. Sales and marketing have a specific connector, but you can pull it into customer service as well. Regarding the ones about the matching, Jonathan, jump in if you have anything else extra to add, but you don't necessarily need to do the primary ID. Usually you don't have that matched across the different data sets, so you would match it based on surname, address, mobile number, email, potentially. So more matching would mean more specific, but people do tend to move around. So you can change the criteria to match against the data sources, which is completely custom to whatever you feel is most relevant and you get the best results from. So Jonathan, I didn't know if you had anything to add to that, so I just jumped in.
Yeah, no, that basically is it. So it's say if you don't have anything that uniquely identifies it, you can do it based on other things like email addresses, like you say.
Jonathan, is there a data stewardship so you can see what's matched and what's below the threshold?
Yeah, because it tells you how many records have matched exactly, and how many don't match, I guess. So you can actually choose to whether keep the ones that don't match if you want to as well, which is quite handy, I thought.
It will also
golden
tell
view
you
you can
oh,
build by attribute. For that trusted view, I could pull in 20 attributes because they're the most trusted from 20 systems.
Yeah, and basically in your unified customer profile, you can choose which fields appear.
You can
Which is
also see
ideal.
where they've come from as well if you need that for the audit trail.